Greetings, everyone, and welcome to number 7 on my lesser known but awesome heroes Black History Mini Marathon. And today, as you can tell by the picture and the title, I'll be talking about one of the main supporting members of the X-Men, if not one of the most popular. Yes, today I'll be talking about I'm going to just say Aurora, because that's the way that I remember hearing it pronounced. But today I'll be talking about the Queen of Wakanda herself. Yes, I'll be talking about the X-Man known as Storm. Now, Storm debuted in Giant-Sized X-Men #1 in May of 1975, and she was created by Lynn Wayne and Dave Crockham. Pretty much the basic backstory for Storm is that she was born in Africa, and that her family had a long magical lineage of sorts. Believe it or not, guys, I didn't even know this about Storm, but apparently she has a very strong magic potential, and that she has slight capabilities in magical and arcanic abilities. And that she was actually one of 2 people, aside from Doctor Strange, during a clairvoyance to be able to actually be possessed and host the body of the cosmic entity known as Eternity. I thought that was pretty cool to share with you guys. Storm is also one of the most strong-willed people, not just in the X-Men, but in the entire Marvel Universe, as she has been able to actually resist even the psychic onslaught of Jean Grey when she was Dark Phoenix. Although this was just barely, but still, that's pretty impressive. And she's also been considered by many, as at least being classified, as one of the first strong black female characters. And Storm has actually not just sometimes led the X-Men and been the Queen of Wakanda, but Storm has also been a member of the Avengers, the Fantastic Four, the Lady Liberators, the Extreme X-Men team, the 12. She's actually led the Morlocks for a small while. She was part of the Hellfire Club and the Extreme Sanctions Executive. And another interesting part of her origin is that she actually grew up an orphan, and that she used to thieve and get into fights to be able to survive until she tried to pickpocket Professor X while he was over in Africa. And he eventually took her in and gave her a home with the X-Men. And that apparently her actual name, at least in her tribal language, means beauty, which is quite interesting. And I will admit, and I'm not ashamed to admit as a man, that Storm is actually rather attractive. But that's neither here nor there. Certainly what's interesting is that she... oh, excuse me. Another thing that's quite interesting is that when she became an adult or a teenager, many consider her a weather witch, because of her mutant ability to manipulate the weather. And this made her a high priestess, if not a goddess, among some of the African tribes, because she was able to manipulate the weather to bring rain and produce crops, and so on and so forth. And I think what's really surprisingly interesting, to me at least, is that Storm has always been had a den mother attitude towards a lot of the students, if not her other X-Men team members. And Storm has went through many different incarnations, actually. When she first debuted, she was just still young, still a young and naive woman. She was still getting a grasp of her powers. Or rather, she had to find control of her powers, but she didn't have the degree that she does now. And of course, anybody who's watched the 90s cartoon or even seen the movies or anything like that, when Storm uses her powers, her eyes turn milky white. A very interesting thing is that she can conjure up tornadoes, she can conjure up, mist, rain, anything of the weather that you can think of, Storm can do. And she's even been able to actually harness lightning to create almost like a static field around herself that further increases the ability of not being able to be penetrated by people with strong telepathic powers. Another interesting thing is that because of how strong her will is, she can't easily be tracked, even by people like Calabac, who can actually sense other mutants. So that to me is quite impressive. But Storm would go through many different other incarnations. She would eventually actually die, but then come back in, I believe, the late 80s, early 90s in a punk look. She would have a mohawk and she'd have a much more like bad girl type attitude. However, she would eventually become a contemporary black woman by, say, the 2000s, and they would eventually, during the Marvel Civil War, she would actually marry T'Challa. Although a lot of Storm fans have a lot of complaints about that, because basically Marvel tried to force feed us, the BS that Black Panther and Storm had a previous romantic relationship as teenagers, but that T'Challa's journey into becoming the Black Panther got in the way of that, but that they always tried to stay close. I don't actually mind this. I don't like the way that they did it, but I don't mind the fact that they tried to add a backstory with Black Panther in there. And a lot of people take issue with it because they tried to shoehorn Black Panther into there. But I actually like that, guys. I think Black Panther and Storm are, in my opinion, a great couple. And if any of you guys don't know who Storm is, then I strongly suggest that you like Google or Wikipedia her biography, because Storm foremost is one of the great black female characters, and she definitely is an awesome hero. Oh, sorry guys, but I actually forgot two little facts. Her and T'Challa actually did take over the Fantastic Four there for a while after they became the king and queen of Wakanda. And actually, at one point during the 70s or 80s, when they were doing a lot of horror comics, Storm was actually bitten and for a while was a vampire. Yeah, just thought that would actually quickly say these afterthought video things, guys. Sorry.